Hello and welcome to 15. I'm Luke. Joining me, Dan Wade. Hi, Dan.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, Dan. It's the hottest day of the year. I mean, it's the hottest day ever, isn't it, in the
On
UK?
record, yeah. Heathrow, 40.2 degrees C,
Oh my goodness. Weren't they
beating the
melting?
previous highest temperature of 38.8 or something.
Wasn't the airports melting? I heard that, right? Have you heard that?
Yeah. Yeah, because Willy Wonka built them out of chocolate, didn't he? So
Yeah.
that's why they.
It's not a great advert. I know it's a stereotype about Britain. Every time there's a little bit of hot weather or any sort of adverse weather, we just have no idea how to handle it.
Yeah, correct. Snow, wind, rain, sun.
What temps did you guys hit down there in near Rutland? Where are you based right now? He's having a sip. Let me intervene from there.
That would be telling, Luke. I keep my location secret so the adoring fans can't mob me.
I get.
I've been burnt by that one too many times. Of course, remember Monte Carlo.
It might be a small county, but I still gave him a county to hunt through to find you in Rutland.
Not the right county, though.
Okay, so the idea
One for
behind
the
this,
listeners, do they think who copes better with the heat? Do a little poll, maybe?
why?
I just remember Budapest.
Oh, out of the two of us,
Yeah. Well, not just randomly.
well, you're chucking their names into the ring. Me,
Okay. I nominate Juado from Brazil.
right?
You had some stats for the podcast, didn't you, though? Talking about, I hope one's about Brazil.
That's right, Dan. Only 45% of you that are watching this right now on YouTube are subscribed.
YouTube.
I didn't say it like that, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, did I? So if you are watching, subscribe. If you don't know how to watch
On what, sorry?
YouTube,
YouTube.
If you don't know how to watch, go on the podcast description notes, click on that. There's a little link to get you through to the video content. By the way, the premise of the show, because we have new listeners join us all the time, we better mention it. We watched the first 15 minutes of 3 films in the hope of giving you one in time for the weekend. The idea behind this is, how many times, Dan, have you been sat with Grace? She's put on a crap film, 10 minutes in, turn it off. Because we've got so much options, we can just have whatever we want.
That would be a good idea for a film podcast. Should have done
10. Okay, right, Dan, I think that's...
I just have one bone of contention. I watched last week's episode, folks. Don't normally do that because I'm the talent. Luke's the producer. I'm the talent. Don't watch my own stuff back. I'm not an egomaniac. I did ask Luke to put the Peppa Pig Thug Life link in the bottom of the video. No link appeared. So hopefully he can rectify that for this week.
Well, thank goodness you intervened. Okay, so house cleaning done. Time to get to the film that we watched last week. So remember, we watched the first 50 minutes of 3 films, and we choose one to watch in full. We'll give our full review now. Dan, we chose Alien from 1979. Dan, is this the best film we've ever watched on the podcast? No, it's not, because it's not. There Will Be Blood. But anyway, is this the second best film we've actually seen?
We didn't watch There Will Be Blood on the podcast, did we?
Mm-hmm, we did.
I'm glad
it left an impression on you.
No,
what beat it then? You tell me what beat that.
I can't remember what I did last week.
Yeah.
But definitely not There Will Be Blood. I
can't remember when it was set in there. No, actually, I'm not going to do that joke. Okay, Dan.
Yes.
So is this the best sci-fi horror film we've done on the podcast?
Yes, absolutely. Gosh, can't tie this guy in knots. I do believe in 1979, when this film came out, it would have been terrifying. I stand by that. I'm not sure today the thriller element, so the alien, holds up as the terrifying beast that it's meant to be, but that is only because of our lifestyle and what computer graphics and awareness can do. I'm fully happy to immerse myself in that and believe, and kind of, that's not a criticism, that's just a fact, I think, of where we are now. But in 1979, I think this would have been absolutely terrifying, and to go and see this in a cinema would have just been, what an experience.
Yeah, that's the only knock I had on this film, which made it lose a couple of points, is this idea that it's not to the detriment of the film, but I wish I had seen it in a more immersive setting. I wish I was in a cinema where a bunch of people having a shared experience. You know, when you're in a cinema and everyone's watching a horror and everyone's gripped, it makes it even more scary. I wish we had that. And
small anecdote: I saw The Dark Knight Dark Knight in a cinema,
right,
and a film known for being pretty tense, pretty somber, pretty low level, pretty quiet at times. I went with my stepfather, who fell asleep and snores incredibly loudly throughout that film.
you didn't
That
wake
was
him
an
up.
experience. Nope, I was too embarrassed.
Uh, okay, so let's get to what I like about this film. So first of all,
Okay.
you mentioned the alien. I love
Yes.
the handling of the creature in this film.
Did
Like,
you know he was a black actor? I think Eritrean or something like that, and it's his only film role. And Ridley Scott wanted him to do it, and it's his only acting credit.
wow, to be fair, when you look like that, you can't really immerse yourself into any of the roles. But I love the way. I love the way he was in Ugly, he didn't get the call for Alien 2. He's absolutely fuming. He's like, who's beat me to that one?
Yeah. Charlie Chaplin coming third in a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the way they kept him in the shadows, do you know what I mean? The use of light is actually something quite interesting in this entire film. The use of light is interesting here, how Ridley used that to first conceal the ghost and create tension, but then when we see the beast, the alien, towards the end,
Righteous Brothers.
when we see the alien towards the end, and we have this like strobe lighting, and we have the ship malfunctioning, and it becomes much more frantic and chaotic. It uses light there, so I love that element. But the alien itself was it scary? It wasn't very scary when it was at the end, was it?
No.
Crammed
Or
into
when the little
like
one, when the worm came out.
The
of the
what?
stomach.
Oh yeah, and like scooted off.
Like fucking Muppets, when it was.
It reminded me of, you know, when you used to play with like magnets, and you'd have one underneath the bottom of the table, one at the top, and you'd make it run along the table. I think that was pretty much their special effects department for that. Anyway, we shouldn't criticize that.
I wanted to pick up something you said though in that point, which is light, and there was three kind of key elements that I sort of became aware of quite being used by Ridley Scott at the highest effect. One is light, one is movement, which we kind of talked about when we reviewed the first 15 minutes and how kind of movement was deployed, and then sound. And those three in combination for me just made this film incredibly tense. I mean, like to the point where when John Hurt's character then slipped when he's exploring the big ship that they've gone. So we left the film going down onto the planet. They discover there's this huge alien ship. They're exploring it. They go down into the belly of the ship and they find all these eggs. And when I was just so on edge by that whole kind of sequence, that whole scene, because of what Ridley Scott was doing, that when John Hurt slipped and nothing happened, I literally cried out, "Oh God, John! Like, oh God! Like, what are you doing? You fool! Why did you slip?" Like this kind of film, I really kind of got into it.
I wish you were in a cinema when you.
I said it that posh as well. Oh God, John! Oh, damn it.
I'm sure we can go into these in a little bit more detail, but for me, like you talk about hallmarks and stuff and what makes a film good and these sort of pillars of a film, the direction extremely good. It consummate control the entire time, created when it needed to be, lifted the screenplay. The screenplay is the next point. Knowing when to speak was so important in this film. It didn't waste dialogue at all. The jargon was there. You believed in the characters. It set it in a sense of realism, slightly in sci-fi. I love that. Pacing, superb.
Pacing,
slow,
amazing.
Meandering at the start, sort of getting you almost giving you a false sense of security, sort of settling. You know something's coming and it's bubbling away. And then frantic and chaotic edit cuts as we go from the film, and like we say, the light and the sound added to that. And then finally the execution. If you're watching a film and you think, okay, every single part of this is exactly what they wanted to do, I mean, you can't really fault it. Even if you don't like a film and you think they've executed exactly what they wanted to, it deserves huge credit.
Yeah, I totally agree. The one thing you kind of haven't mentioned there though is the performances. What do you sit on this? Because for me, I thought Ian Holm was very good as Ash, the robot. I didn't see that twist coming. That was a night. I mean, I kind of, he was that good in that he laid the seeds of doubt, but they weren't obvious. And so when they came to fruition, you kind of went, okay, that kind of works. Yeah, I'm believing that. I thought he was fantastic as this character.
But yeah, I agree.
Sigourney Weaver.
I think
Go on.
Ash was the best for me.
Yeah.
Stole the show. Yeah, Sigourney Weaver. I don't know because you're asking her to almost be the beating heart of this film in a way. But maybe not the beating heart, but she's the tangible link that people grab onto for like the emotional salvation. And she was a little bit sort of actiony figure, and I didn't get it. You get a lot of praise for her performance, and
Yeah.
I didn't massively see it all.
So
that much.
I looked into the Ebert review, and he said she's basically the consummate kind of sci-fi girl. Like she's doing everything. She's action. She's clever. She's kind of what you want from it. And I can see that. I can see that. I just think there's been, again, where we are now, sort of 40 years later, there's been better characters than her. I found both female parts in this. I think it's Sigourney Weaver and I think it's Nancy Cartwright.
Okay.
Something Cartwright, I'm sure it is. I found them to be a bit hysterical, and it was a bit of that's a little bit lazy. I don't know if that's just of the time, but these are supposed to be astronauts, right? And there's a degree of, I guess, because it's set in the far future, there's a degree of the kind of, this is just a job. It's not like an A-list job as it is currently today. But I still felt that in those situations, being hysterical didn't really do it for me. I wanted more genuine fear, or I just wanted a better emotion than hysterical. Hysterical is a bit lazy for me.
I
think agree. That was only because I saw them next to each other, just to finish that point, just next to each other. Whereas I think if on their own, they were doing good things, but just when the alien attacked, it was like hysterical and man was a bit macho. I didn't really, I wanted a bit more.
I don't know. I didn't mind that hysteria. If we first of all, we're talking about context and of the time. First of all, huge credit for the fact that the protagonist is a woman. I think that was presumably rare in the late 70s in sci-fi film, especially a male-dominated genre. And I accept that the auxiliary character, female character, was a little bit more hysterical, but that hysteria at the end added to it. Like when she's fidgeting around and she's going to find the bomb, and then she goes back. How interesting is that? I've never seen a film where she has a self-destruction, she runs to the other end, and then she has to go back and turn it off again. And I thought, that's so weird. So many people just wouldn't do that. They'd say, that's a bit too long. We'll just have the bomb, mate, and she's got to get off the ship. That was so clever. Had a completely extra layer to it. And actually sticking in with the plot a little bit more. I loved how at the start you got the idea that this alien was going to be like almost like a surgical break builder in snooker for something of our own heart. Do you know what I mean? Like picking them off one by one. And I thought, I kind of knew the order they were going to die. I thought, okay, I know who's going to die here, here, and here. But then the captain dies, which is so clever because the focal point's gone. And what we spoke about in the last episode, this idea of tension becomes to the fore because Ash and Ripley are fighting for power.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I don't know if I bought into the cat.
Oh, I liked the cat. That added the human element. I love that idea, and it's also the whole point. The whole point's a cat and mouse, isn't it? So I quite like the idea that a cat is also there.
Yeah, for me, it just felt a bit. In fact, that whole end sequence that you've just referenced, where she went to go and get the bomb, I lost something there. So perhaps you can talk me through it. So she puts the cat near the hatch. She goes and sets the detonation off. Then she comes back and the alien's there with the cat. Then she runs back to turn the bomb off.
Yeah, she's not going to get out. Aliens. She's not going to get out in time, right?
Oh, that was
she can't get past the alien to get to the pod, so she has to go and turn the bomb off because she's going to kill herself.
But then the bomb can't go off, so she thinks, fuck it. The alien's gone, but it's actually in the pod.
And yeah, she has to sort of just brave it and go past it. And then
that scene. Go on, well, I was going to say that scene was amazing. I thought she was fantastic in that, Sigourney Weaver, in the escape pod. Not moving. Again, movement though, isn't it? It's that tentative movement and how she's kind of slowly getting into the scene. I do agree with you that the kind of alien was a little bit of a weak villain at that point.
It was just when it was wedged into this sort of this structure. And it just looked a bit, and we've seen glimpses all the way through, and then we see it at its weakest point.
Yeah.
And I get it, it's because it's there and she's almost on a level playing field, but she's noticed it and it hasn't, but it just looks a bit bizarre. And I guess another issue is, maybe this is also a big issue with watching it on a laptop or on a TV or anything. You can just knock the mouse and you know how long's left. So when she gets into the pod and you're like, okay, there's 15 minutes left here, this alien is rearing its head again. Do you know what I mean? In cinema, you won't get that.
Well, this is what I wonder. The ending, actually, I wished it had been a bit bleaker. I'm sorry to say,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I kind of expected the film to end. I didn't knock the mouse, but I expected it to end. And then so she goes in her stasis pod, and then the cat, I thought that was what the point of the cat was going to be, that the alien had planted its children in the cat.
All right.
And so she
Sounds like
goes
some
into
fan
this.
fiction. Alien
No,
banging the
but
cat.
yeah, not that. But more like she gets in the status pod, she thinks she's escaped, and then after we sort of see the alien in the pod, or the cat's dead and the alien is now in. Do you know what I mean? I thought it was going to be more of that, unless she kills the alien, she strokes the cat, she gets in the pod, and then happy music plays.
All got too much for the cat. She comes in, it's just swinging from the rafters. To be fair, the tool of the cat is to make her more human and show that she's trying to say something else that's more vulnerable, and that worked hook, line, and sinker on me. I actually liked her character more because that's I would have saved the cat. You've got to save the cat.
I would have fucked the cat.
Yeah.
Not fuck the cat. I would have let it.
Yeah. Then we would have saved it. My final point, I guess, unless you've got something after this, is just going back to Ridley Scott on this. Yeah. This film is so clean, it's direct, it's coherent. Do you know what I mean? It's just effective, and I'm a big fan of economical, clinical cinema. Like, it goes from A to B. It knows what it wants to do. It's not
it does it.
Yeah, and it does it. And it's not being trite. It's not being contrived. It's not doing stuff everyone's done before. It's just being clear with what it's going to do. And that clarity is fantastic. It really is. Because you can still be ambiguous in that. You can still be clever in that. Yeah. But the audience know what they're in for. And
there's no chaff. There's no fat on this anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that, I agree with you, is nice. Yeah.
Well, did you give
very good film. I think I gave it 8.5.
Same. 8.5 for me too. I think it probably would have been, if I'd have seen it in a cinema, I imagine coming out, if I'd seen it in 1979 in a cinema, I'd be like, wow, film of the year territory. Do you know what I mean? That's how I would have reacted to it. But unfortunately, we didn't have that
immersive experience.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, this week. So the 3 films we're going to watch The Sea Beast, 24-Hour Party People, and Being the Ricardos. Dan, correct. We are watching Sea Beast, a kids' film on Netflix about pirates. Why are we watching that film? And kick us off with a review.
Why are we watching that film? Because I'm hook, line, and sinker for a pirate film.
Dan loves pirates. He does. You do love pirates. That's why when I was picking you an NFL team, we gave you the Buccaneers. You did. You still got your shirt somewhere.
And Luke, do you know why pirates are called pirates?
I almost fell for that. I literally almost fell for that. Okay, right. So, first thing I noticed about this is how good the animation is in the water. I remember when it must have been like 2002, 2003. And we came to my lounge. I would have been about 8 years of age, and we got one of our first few.
I wasn't there.
One of our first few DVDs, first ever DVDs bought was Finding Nemo, and it had this menu setting, and the menu, I think it was like the aquarium in the dentist's workshop.
And what was it? Grilled haddock.
Yeah,
fresh pollock.
And I watched it, and I literally had a moment where I thought, why have we bought? I didn't know we bought an aquarium, right? Because the water animation is that good. So I'm a big fan.
Luke was the retard at 8 years old, by the way, guys.
Glad that word's come up. And I think water animation is the hardest thing to do. And the start of this is fantastic. And it has to be because it's set in the sea.
Yes, I also put great animation, but then I put a comma and I want to bring up a phrase you have previously mentioned.
Don't think we can say that on the podcast.
And I think it was talking about Luca. And we talked about how good the animation was. And you said, but isn't that the law of diminishing returns? Because animation has got to get better. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. And so whilst this is the animation is very good. Is that noteworthy enough? Or is it just like the benchmark is always being raised? So to be even passable, it's got to be that level.
We're in the era of animation films. I don't think there's many genres you can look at and look sideways at your peers and say, this is the best time now for this genre. And I think animation is a good shout to be in that bracket. Obviously, the golden age of Disney maybe, and maybe early mid-noughties with Pixar. But you know what I mean? Like now, animation is as strong as it's ever been. Like, let's go to the director a little bit. So it's Chris Williams. So he co-directed Moana, and then he directed Big Hero 6 and Bolt, right? Didn't like Bolt.
No.
Haven't seen the others. Isn't Moana good? People say Moana was good.
Moana is a refreshing take on the Disney. Big Hero 6 is good. That would
Okay.
be my.
But my point is this just not, is this a hunt for storytelling, this film, or is this another film to put on Netflix? So it's the summer holidays, and so kids can sit there, watch that once, and go, okay, now I've got a million films. What else am I going to watch? That's my point with this film.
I feel that this, from the first 15 minutes, had more opportunities to be grown up. And so is this, in fact, what you're saying? Is it just a Disney kids pirate film? And I will go with it because I enjoy the genre, but I think from a film point of view, I'm worried. Like there was a moment where we had a fantastic piece of cinematography where Captain Red Crow or something, Captain Crow, who's like the apex pirate, dives in, kills this beast, the initial kind of beast we see, and then he's swimming to the shore, but the beast is still a little bit alive and it grabs him by the leg. And we went to a wide shot of just ocean, the beast pulling down to the depth, and this captain. And I thought, okay, wow, he's gonna die, he's gonna be drowned, he's gonna be killed, and there's gonna be this opportunity now of, the captain never kind of fulfilling his wish, and then the next thing, the captain's alive and he's been rescued. And I just was a bit like, that's a fantastic cinematographic shot, as an image, beautiful, really quite powerful, and then you've not gone to that grown-up place.
That moment, I'm so glad you said that, because that moment killed this 15 minutes for me. Absolutely killed it. Because first of all, I saw it coming. Okay, it dying too easily, it's going down too quickly. It didn't make any sense. We need a big moment, so I knew it was going to grab him. Fine, it's a bit predictable. Whatever. It's a kids' film. I'm not the target audience. Okay, but then to bottle it and not even have him die, and then not even show him rescued, just wake up, nothing's really made of it, and he just looks angry about the fact that
that whole moment,
this mythical beast was appalling. It was so bad. There's literally no stakes at play if you are not at all willing to do this. In the first initial stages, when we haven't even built up a relationship with this guy, it was appalling that they did that. That was so bad. And we compared it to Disney. Disney would have had the bottle to do that stuff. Like, look at Bambi. Do you know what I mean? Like, they would do that. Oh, that's so bad. What's the point in any of the fighting? Did you see the fight scene? Not a single member of the crew died. No. Not a single one. So what's the point in any of this then? Like,
there's no jeopardy.
Yeah.
And without jeopardy, there's nothing, is there?
Yeah.
Like Moana.
I thought that's the start of a quote. I was trying to think, what's the end of that quote?
Like Moana, the jeopardy is they'll lose their home. The islands are being destroyed. Okay. So there's a genuine threat. Well, it might not be like blood and guts, but Big Hero 6, and this is what surprises me actually, that I didn't realize that was in, but in Big Hero 6 they kill off the brother at the beginning, and it's Big Hero 6 is really tender. It's a really powerful film. It's really good. So I'm surprised he hasn't done that there.
Well, obviously these films are so collaborative. Do you know what I mean? That's why they don't come from one source. So again, I'm trying to stay a little bit positive. Like the gusto of this film, anyone can cook, but you know what I mean? Like the energy of this film. Credit for that. Yeah. It was fun. It was bright.
I've got the vivid word. I like the word music. I think the music was really key here, and what it did is it definitely captured that swashbuckling kind of nature of it. It was all very hard to starboard, me laddie, and heave ho, and there be a beastie, and that's kind of what you want from a pirate film. But what elevates that from, it's like anything, isn't it? A superhero film has to have a superhero. Pirate films have to have this kind of nature, this kind of
buccaneering,
buccaneering, sea shanty, life on the line. But what makes it a great film then is when you actually combine the two and you raise the stakes. Or I think of the one with Hugh Grant in, where he plays Darwin's in it, and what's it called? Adventure with Pirates and Scientists. That has this swashbuckling nature. It's a comedy and it's a light-hearted family film, but it kind of takes it in a little bit of, there's humor there, and it's clever. It's a little bit of a sideways glance. This isn't that. This is supposed to be a straight-laced kind of pirate film for kids and families, but it can still have heart. And this, for me, didn't have a lot of heart.
Okay, right. Let's move on then. We might come back to that one. Let's go on to the second film. So this is 24 Hour Party People. So I'm going to start off by saying, I've been wanting to watch this film for ages. It's
Yeah.
Michael Winterbottom. It's
Yeah.
Steve Coogan. It's about
Yeah.
the Manchester music scene. It's
Yeah.
sort of mockumentary
Yeah.
meets Spinal Tap meets like a Culture Corner sort of documentary on music. This is so up my street. Now,
Yeah.
is this up your street, this film, then? I'm really
Very
curious.
2000 and very Steve Coogan was the note I have.
So, well, let's start with Steve Coogan. First of all, I'm a
Right.
huge fan of Steve Coogan. I think he's an excellent comedic actor and doesn't get enough credit for his dramatic acting. But in this role, this is his role. Like he has that way. It
Has
mirrors
Steve
his
Coogan
sort of
ever
ego.
played anything but Steve Coogan?
Well, okay, so if we're talking about The Trip and we're talking about he's worked with Michael Winterbottom, not
Stop
hugely.
saying Michael Winterbottom. I'm talking about Steve Coogan. Steve Coogan, for me, the character, fine. He's meant to be a bit of a dick. But Steve Coogan, for me, always seems to play Steve Coogan. Or maybe it's just all seems to play Alan Partridge, or it's just felt too close there for me a little bit, this whole performance. I would have liked to have seen more, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here and say that in the first 15 minutes, we're not supposed to see anything more than this because this is the setup. And this is meant to be a guy. Basically, the plot of the film is he's retconning himself back into all these he's the guy who was there at all these awakenings of these bands. So you've got whoever you had, I can't remember all the bands.
Joy Division and
Joy Division.
I assume we're going to have like Smiths, Oasis, Stone Roses, all that sort of stuff, aren't we?
So, yeah. And I liked the homegrown British cast. Nice to see old Petey there. Look away while I do the till.
Peter Kay, it's nice. And John Thompson's in it, isn't he?
John Thompson's in it, yeah. So I didn't have any problems with it, but it was just very Steve Coogan and very 2000s. The sense of place, I suppose you could argue, was very strong.
I think the sense of place is lovely. So it starts in the 70s, and what you can see that it just in the opening titles and the graphics, it's using this Sex Pistols aesthetic, almost sort of acid melting on film reel. And I quite like that. I assume during the film that's going to change when we're introducing acts from like 90s Hacienda era rave scene. It's going to have a different look. Okay. I assume so. So I think it is going to shift between those eras. For me, what I loved about this first 15 minutes is Michael Winterbottom breaking the form again, looking to introduce archive footage. This super ambitious idea of having an act on stage where we're actually watching their real gig footage and integrating them into a scene. And listen, it didn't always perfectly work. It wasn't seamless, but it did create a sort of gig atmosphere.
No, I would actually disagree with you there. I thought it was very successful, that. And I actually think that's probably the best way of doing it. And that's quite pioneering because we've seen some really bad stuff. And especially more recently, there's kind of with this whole deep faking and stuff, people are able to kind of go back. And actually, that's so much clever to be able to create this the essence of a underground rave in the 70s and then flip between that and kind of essentially Top of the Pops clips. I like that. I did like that.
I liked the movement as well. For me, this film is probably going to be about, I mean, if you're not a huge fan of the Coogan character, I think he's going to be the entire film, but it's going to be about him and how he surfs through and almost benefits off these musical eras, I assume, and he's probably going to have a big highs and he's going to have a big low, something like that. But I like that he's such an ambitious and restless character because he was carrying the film. He created the momentum. Like, it wasn't letting you settle, and I hope it's not going to let you settle in any era. I think it's going to keep moving, keep picking up pace, slowing it down. Yeah, I really liked Coogan in this, and I know it's similar to his sort of ego roles and so on, but with him breaking the fourth wall, looking down the character, being the host, being a literal presenter, your eyes are on him anyway. I think that's the sort of the idea with this character.
Yeah, I can see that. I hope the film keeps up its own pace that it's setting here. But I hope he mellows and becomes more than just this character, because I feel sometimes with his characters, you are holding them at arm's length. And even when they're sad, they're quite often sad. Like Alan Partridge is a very sad character. So his humor comes in the fact that he's sad. And I hope that this guy's humor doesn't come from the fact that he's just intense all the time. I want a bit of light and shade in a performance. So I hope he can deliver that. I know he can, but this film seems like it's a bit of a whirlwind, and I just don't want to get too bogged down in that.
Yeah, I sort of take your point of this arm's length idea, but maybe that's why you're putting it in this amateurish gonzo style of filmmaking. Do you know what I mean? He's sort of carried away with it. Everything's going on around him that you don't have to put everything completely on his shoulders. And you're looking there and you're spotting a who's who. That's a bit of fun. You know what I mean? When we've got the Sex Pistols on stage and he's talking about all these litany of musical geniuses and Mick Hucknall in a room, and he's talking about them watching it. I assume that's completely fake. That can't be true at all. Surely not. But getting inspiration out of the 42 people there to start their own musical ventures. I love these are nice little nods. Do you know what I mean? And in the wrong hands, it can just be indulgent. Fingers crossed it doesn't get to that stage. But this film comes with a lot of acclaim and a lot of lovers. So I'm hoping it sort of carries on being pretty good.
Okay.
I definitely agree, though. Partridge elements, massive Partridge vibes for me in this. Like I think Alan Partridge is an incredible comedy character. Like Mid Morning Matters, that era is staggeringly good. But you can see big similarities here. The brushstrokes are sort of merging into
Very
one.
similar.
Yeah, you definitely can see that. Both characters might have that self-awareness as well, which I'm a touch worried about. Anything else then on this film? Where do you think it could go? Do you think it seems like it's going to be a little bit debauched as well, right? I've got this idea of alcoholism and drugs and sex and all this.
Yeah, I don't know, because at the moment, for me, it felt a little bit... It was throwing you in at the deep end of this is where we are and this is what we're doing. And I don't feel like it's settled onto the tracks. And I don't mean that in a sense of, becoming boring and regular, but I just mean, I've not found and this is what's going to happen. What's the story? At the moment, we're still in that swimming pool of look who's here. And like you say, he's got this music venue. And it's going to be a bit difficult. So, but who's going to come through those doors? Because is it just going to be that who's who, like you say, or are we going to have something more? We're going to have a bit of a kind of romantic thing. I'm at a loss. I don't know. So I'm intrigued. I'll give you that. And it's got somewhere to go, definitely. And yeah, very distinctive film. Comes out with a bang out the stocks. But yeah, I'm hesitant. I'm not as willing as you, I think.
Okay, let's get on to the final one then in today's triumvirate. We have got, being the Ricardos, 2001, Aaron Sorkin, director. Obviously, he's known for his direction work in
2001?
Oh, sorry, 21. So Trial Chicago 7. Well, that's a good film that we did in this podcast, actually.
It is a good film.
But he's obviously much more known for his screenplays, like Moneyball, Social Network, Charlie Wilson's War, West Wing. You know what I mean? That's where he sits. And for me, this first 15 minutes, I struggled with this a bit. For me, he is still so much better as a writer than a director. And when his writing isn't quite hitting the same note with me, I struggle a little bit in some of these films.
And is that what is happening here?
A little bit. Obviously, you got that fast, peppery, zingy dialogue. But for me, this is a biopic that didn't feel like it was remotely based in reality. I struggled.
Oh, see, I think we're coming at this a little bit different. I really like the rhythm to start with. And I think that's something that we look for in a film quite often. So I really kind of felt that sort of peppery, like you say, kind of zippy kind of feel of the film. You can feel that sort of bass.
It's like jazz. It's like jazz, Dan, isn't it?
It is like jazz.
Let's talk about the intro then, because obviously they set up the premise of why we should care, which I appreciate. So I've heard of I Love Lucy, and I've heard it's got huge ratings. I knew that much, but that's pretty much all I knew, really. I knew it's an American show. People love it.
I'd heard of Lucy Ball, but other than that, Lucille Ball.
Lucille, yeah, I hadn't heard of her. But anyway, but because they've set it up like that, when we meet the characters, and we already know their personalities, and we know they're about to hear this radio broadcast, which is called A Communist, everything falls flat. So all the drama for me was all the air was taken out of that room already, because I know what's going to happen, and I'm expecting this fiery relationship, and it's not as fiery as I wanted it to be. It's a little bit.
So you think it feels a bit sanitized?
Well,
I sort of quite liked this.
Okay.
A couple of things. I think mainly because of two kind of key points. I think Javier Bardem proves here he is a fantastic actor.
He
I
has
just
proved it time and time before. To be fair
I
to be
know,
fair to
but
the
he
guy,
just leapt off the screen here and was just so consummate in what he was
he does his own
doing.
stunts.
Yeah. Um, I just thought he was brilliant in this.
Yeah.
Of this, he really was that character. He captured that character for me.
Okay, but why should
I
we?
don't know why. I just was really. I was
No, not
thinking.
that. I agree.
Oh,
I think it was very good, but why does that elevate the film for me? He was very good, and he was probably the best on screen, and everything else feels very like they've hired a bunch of people in that writing room scene. Two of them are from Arrested Development, two of them are from the US office, and it's this idea of I don't. And they weren't having any zingers or anything funny. I thought, is it going to go in comedic direction then? So presumably it is. And then all of Sorkin's films, goodness me, he loves this sort of golden hue, romanticized ideal of Hollywood. And I get it. Sorkin, probably with his age, was sat there, bright-eyed, bushy tails, watching I Love Lucy. Okay, he's got that nostalgia. Everyone in America's got that nostalgia. I haven't. So why do I care? And at the moment, I'm seeing a privileged couple who a bit thing happened to them who think Nicole Kidman thinks she's the smartest person in the world. She's coming across pretty arrogant, and I'm not liking her.
but I think you're basing that on all of that on on actor rather than character, because you've just said you're expecting all these people from sitcoms to do funny things and they're not,
Well,
and then you're expecting Nicole Kidman to, and
I'm
I'm
not
just
really expecting to do funny things, but I'm just wondering what their purpose is, because they seem like they're going for humour. What was it, Tony Hale's character, the bald guy, when he stood up and and it didn't work, and just sit down, and I don't know. I've got high expectations of Aaron Sorkin. His screenplays are extremely good. He's a sensationally good writer. I understand that. But why is he in a shot with the camera? Like his whole idea of, let's have the radio central. Quite a nice idea, but for some it didn't really work. Do you know what I mean? We were listening to two conversations, not hearing either of them, and I wasn't engaged in either of them.
that seemed to be fair. I didn't like how I would have kept that camera on that radio for the whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
They flitted between a couple of angles. And I didn't really like that. Oh, okay. I see. My other point was I really liked how you kind of delved into Lucille Ball's mind, and you saw this sort of black and white how the scene was going to play out, and she's asking questions and she's being quite ruthless, and I quite enjoyed that. If I'm honest, I thought that was quite fresh, and was kind of well delivered, and we kind of got these two characters who are clearly kind of very cutthroat, but that's kind of their angle. That's what it is. This kind of idea of to be the fandom and to be these kind of sweethearts of America. They're actually quite cold and quite cutting and quite ruthless. So it's that kind of facade, but then that facade is being jeopardized or being challenged by this kind of historical stigma against communism. Where in reality, you've kind of got these two things. So the communism is seen as really bad, but it was just an innocuous tick on the paper. Whereas their characters are seen as really good, but actually they're quite terrible and quite awful people. I sort of quite enjoyed that kind of dichotomy, I suppose, and kind of way of kind of, yeah. So that was for me.
I quite like that contradiction of inside outside personality. I get that. Okay, right. We're gonna have to pick one of these three films now then. So if I want 24 Hour Party People and you won't be in the Ricardos, should we just go for the Sea Beast?
I guess.
Yeah.
That sort of splits. Yeah, keeps us.
No one's happy.
No one's happy. I mean, I'm sort of satisfied because I get to watch the Sea Beast.
Are we going to do the Sea Beast then?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. Let's do the Sea. I mean, not being funny now. That's a 1.25 if I've ever seen one. Okay, we're going to do the Sea Beast. We're back in time for next week. I think that's going to be the quickest review next week when we review the Sea Beast. Just be moving on from that one. Okay, Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers. Pleasure as always.
Now go back to your drinks cabinet.
Teddy, bye.